Fushimi Castle, Kyoto, Japan. A man walks through the castle gates in broad daylight. He is wearing a monk's robe. He is carrying a jar of sake. 30 guards watch him cross the courtyard. No one asks his name. No one stops him. 3 hours later, the lord inside the castle is dead from poisoning. The sake jar, empty. The monk, gone. 30 guards saw nothing. No name appears in the historical record. No body, no witnesses. Only a single word remains, scrawled in red ink in the castle's log, written in a hurry by whoever survived to write it at all. Shinobi. You think you know what a ninja is. You are picturing the black suit. You are picturing the throwing stars. You are picturing someone flipping across rooftops in the dark. You are completely wrong. And in the next 45 minutes, I am going to prove it. With historical data, with handwritten manuscripts from the 17th century, and with a single truth that Hollywood has buried for 40 years. The most dangerous ninja was not dangerous because he could kill you. He was dangerous because he could stand right next to you, and you would never know. Let us start with numbers, because numbers do not lie. Iga and Koga, two small mountain regions in the heart of Japan. Combined area smaller than an average county. Estimated population under 15,000 people. And from those two small patches of land, 49 schools of ninjutsu emerged. 49 distinct training systems. 49 codified sets of combat doctrine, each written down, each preserved. 73 warlords during the Sengoku period, the era when Japan had virtually no year without war, from 1467 to 1615. 148 consecutive years of conflict. All of them contracted shinobi. Not one warlord, not some warlords, 73. In a society where the samurai was the highest ideal of honor, where open combat was a sacred obligation, where dying on the battlefield was considered noble and dying in your bed was considered shameful, why did every single major warlord in Japanese history hire anonymous, nameless operatives who worked in the dark? The answer changes everything you think you know about war. Because shinobi did not exist to kill people. They existed to gather intelligence that no one else could gather. To destroy what no army could touch. To collapse a fortress of 10,000 soldiers without fighting a single battle. That is a completely different kind of power. And it is far more dangerous than a sword. To understand ninja, you first have to understand Sengoku Japan. From 1467 onward, Japan was in a state of perpetual civil war. Samurai clans tore each other apart over land. One lord conquered another. Alliances formed and collapsed within a single season. Castles changed hands. Entire provinces vanished overnight. In a world like that, information was a more powerful weapon than any sword. Knowing how many soldiers your rival commanded, where his food supplies were stored, which gate of his castle went unguarded at midnight, could decide the outcome of a war before it even began. This is when shinobi emerged. Shinobi, which can be read as one who endures or one who conceals, was not a social class. It was not a secret society with a pyramid hierarchy. It was not a brotherhood with initiation rites. Shinobi was a profession. And like every profession in human history, it could be practiced by anyone. Farmers, merchants, monks, even women. The Bansenshukai, the ninjutsu manual compiled in 1676, drawing on over 200 years of operational experience, opens with a line that no movie has ever dared to quote. The shinobi is not a killer. The shinobi serves a purpose greater than himself by making himself invisible. This explains why shinobi recruitment never happened openly. In Iga, a mountain region with no dominant lord, where power belonged to local clans rather than any single ruler, children were trained from the time they were small. Not because they were randomly selected, but because the entire family was an operational unit. A father taught his child to climb before the child could write. A mother taught her child to read faces, to interpret emotion through the eyes, through the set of a jaw, through how a person breathed when they were lying. An uncle taught chemistry, not poison, as the movies claim, but sedatives, smoke compounds, disorientation agents, things that would confuse a guard without leaving evidence. These were not killers being recruited. These were ordinary people being trained to become ordinary people. So perfectly ordinary that no one would ever suspect. The disguise was not a mask. The disguise was a life. But every system has a weakness, and for the shinobi, that weakness arrived in 1581. Oda Nobunaga, the man who came closer than anyone to unifying Japan by force, a general of extraordinary brutality and extraordinary brilliance, and the only figure in all of Sengoku history who decided to destroy Iga, not for strategic reasons, not because the shinobi had threatened him, but because he could not tolerate the existence of a region that did not answer to him. Nobunaga assembled 40,000 soldiers, 40,000, against an estimated 4,000 shinobi and Iga militia, 10-to-1 odds. Historical records describe how the shinobi of Iga refused to fight like samurai. They did not form battle lines. They did not stand their ground. They dissolved into the forest. They burned their own food stores, so Nobunaga's army would have nothing to eat. They launched 37 night raids over 20 days. Not to win, but to slow, to exhaust, to terrify. Men in Nobunaga's camp reported disappearances. Sentries found dead at their posts with no sign of how they died. Supplies vanished overnight. The psychological toll on an army of 40,000 was documented by the army itself. But 40,000 soldiers is still 40,000 soldiers. Iga fell. Nobunaga burned the villages. He killed everyone who had not escaped. He attempted to erase the entire tradition of ninjutsu from the historical record. But here is what he did not know, and what history records with perfect irony. The shinobi who survived Iga did not die with their homeland. They scattered across Japan. They carried with them every technique, every doctrine, every manuscript from all 49 schools. And they sold their services to whoever was willing to pay the highest price. One of those buyers would change Japanese history forever. Before I tell you who that buyer was, let us stop and dismantle what you think is true. Shuriken, the four-pointed throwing star that appears in every ninja movie ever made. Reality. Shuriken came in more than 15 distinct shapes. Most were straight spikes, needle forms, or flat four-edged plates. The 8-pointed star shape you have seen in every movie has never been confirmed in a single pre-20th century document. More importantly, shuriken were not designed to kill. They were designed to slow. Throw one into a pursuer's face, into their hand, into their eye, just enough to buy 2 or 3 seconds, just enough to vanish into darkness. A shuriken was an escape tool, not an assassination tool. Kusarigama, the chain sickle. This is the weapon that actually terrified people, not because of its damage, but because it could neutralize a samurai carrying a long sword from a distance that the sword could not reach. The chain wraps around the sword handle. The sickle ends the encounter in 3 seconds. It was the great equalizer against the warrior class. Ninjato, the ninja sword. The straight blade, square guard, depicted in hundreds of films as the standard shinobi weapon. Reality. There is no archaeological evidence for this design. Shinobi used whatever they could conceal. Short blades, standard katana, bamboo staves, farming tools. The ninjato is almost certainly a 20th century invention. But here is what matters most. None of these weapons were the shinobi's primary tool. The most powerful weapon a shinobi carried was information. The Bansenshukai devotes 90% of its content to how to enter a fortified position without detection, how to read terrain and plan multiple withdrawal routes before entering, how to sustain a false identity for extended periods, how to listen without being heard, how to build an intelligence network inside an enemy castle using people who do not know they are working for you. The manual classifies shinobi operations into 3 tiers. Jonin, the commander, accepts contracts, plans strategy, never appears in the field. Chunin, the coordinator, manages the team, handles communication, bridges command and execution. Genin, the field operative, the one who actually infiltrates, who actually collects the intelligence, who is actually at risk. And here is the detail that most people have never heard. The Jonin rarely knew the identity of the Genin. The Genin did not know the full scope of the Jonin's plan. If one operative was captured, the entire network did not collapse. Compartmentalized cell structure. 500 years before the CIA gave it a name, The shinobi did not stumble onto this architecture by accident. They designed it deliberately, codified it in writing, and taught it across generations. This was not instinct. This was doctrine. Back to 1582. Oda Nobunaga, the man who destroyed Iga, has just been assassinated. Not by a ninja, by one of his own generals. Japan erupts into chaos, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, the man who would eventually unify Japan, the man whose dynasty would rule for 260 years, finds himself in the most dangerous position of his life. He is traveling back to his home territory, with a small escort, through enemy land. In a Japan now boiling after Nobunaga's death, every road is potentially hostile. Every village might contain someone loyal to the wrong lord. There is no safe path. The man who saved him was Hattori Hanzo. Not the Hattori Hanzo from Kill Bill with Samuel L. Jackson's voice. Not a fictional character. The real Hattori Hanzo, born 1542, died 1596, was a jonin of the Iga clan, one of the survivors of Nobunaga's purge. He assembled 200 Iga shinobi and led Ieyasu through the Koga mountain passes, routes that appeared on no maps, paths that only those trained in the landscape of covert movement would know. 27 days, through 4 hostile territories, not a single member of the escort killed. This is the moment that reverses everything. Nobunaga tried to destroy the shinobi, and was killed by his own subordinate. Ieyasu protected and employed the shinobi, and unified Japan. After Ieyasu consolidated power, he did not disband his shinobi. He institutionalized them. He created the Igagumi, an official intelligence unit of 200 Iga shinobi on fixed salaries, with formal contracts, integrated into the machinery of the state. Not mysterious assassins in the shadows, not freelance killers, government intelligence officers with institutional structure. For the first time in Japanese history, a formal state intelligence agency existed. The shogunate did not just use intelligence operations, it built an institution around them. Everything that came after, every government that manages secrets systematically, traces a line back to this moment. But here is the question you have not asked yet. If shinobi actually wore ordinary clothing to blend into crowds, where did the all-black outfit come from? The answer is theater. Japan, 18th century. The kabuki stage. Kabuki is an elaborate theatrical form, stylized, highly visual, intensely choreographed. And like any live production, it required stagehands. People to move scenery between scenes, people to hand actors their props, people to adjust costumes mid-performance. The problem was obvious. How do you have workers on a live stage without the audience seeing them and breaking the illusion? The Japanese solution was elegant. These stagehands were called kuroko, literally black figures. They wore all black clothing from head to foot, and the theatrical convention was established. Kuroko are invisible. The audience agrees to see through them, the way we agree not to see the camera crew in a film. When kabuki playwrights began writing stories about shinobi, because shinobi were already legendary figures by the 18th century, they needed a visual shorthand. How do you show the audience that this character is a ninja? You dress them like the stagehands. You dress them in black. Not because shinobi dressed that way, but because the audience already understood black means invisible. It was a theatrical metaphor, a stage convention. It was never historical reality. Then Hollywood found kabuki. 1981, Enter the Ninja with Franco Nero. 1985, American Ninja. 1987, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And within 10 years, the entire Western world believed that ninja wore all black suits, that this was their uniform, their identity, their aesthetic. An invention of 18th century Japanese theater had become accepted as historical fact. Meanwhile, if you actually open the Bansenshukai, the real document, the handwritten 1676 manuscript, the chapter on field clothing does not mention black a single time. What it describes: dark forest green in summer to blend with foliage, deep brown in winter to match bare earth and dead wood, gray in urban environments where walls and stone are neutral, pale yellow in rural areas where dirt roads and dry grass dominate. And the principle that governs all of it, stated plainly in the text: the best clothing is the clothing of the most ordinary person in that location. Ninja dressed like farmers, like merchants, like monks, like servants, like whoever no one would look twice at. Because the man you do not notice is the man you never suspect. The most dangerous operative in the room is the one who does not look like he belongs to any story at all. And here is where the story becomes more complicated than any movie is willing to go. The Bansenshukai is not an assassin's handbook. It is a philosophical text. The first chapter does not discuss weapons. It does not discuss combat techniques. It discusses ethics. The 10 principles of the shinobi begin with this: the one who fights without reason commits a crime. The shinobi serves a purpose greater than himself. This seems to contradict everything the popular image of the ninja represents. But think about the internal logic. A shinobi who is captured has failed. A shinobi who leaves evidence has failed. A shinobi who kills unnecessarily has created new enemies, attracted attention, compromised the mission. Killing was a last resort, not a first instinct. Historical records suggest that the vast majority of shinobi missions involved gathering intelligence, approximately 60% of all operations, logistics disruption, destroying supply chains, contaminating food stores, cutting communications, approximately 20%, psychological destabilization, spreading false information, manufacturing fear, undermining trust within enemy ranks, approximately 15%. Direct killing, approximately 5%. Psychological warfare was their real specialization. Consider this documented example. Before the Battle of Nagashino in 1575, one of the most decisive engagements of the entire Sengoku period, shinobi operating for the Oda faction are recorded as having infiltrated the Takeda camp. Not to kill anyone, to spread a rumor that reinforcements were arriving from the east. The Takeda commander waited, adjusted his positioning, hesitated at the critical moment, and lost the battle because of a hesitation caused by information that was entirely false. Disinformation changed the outcome of a major engagement without a single one of Oda's men being put at risk. The shinobi did not fight the enemy's reality, they changed the enemy's perception of reality. They did not need to win the battle on the field. They had already won it in the mind of the opposing general, hours before the first arrow was fired. This is the understanding that every intelligence agency in the modern world has spent billions of dollars trying to replicate, and it was articulated in a mountain village in central Japan in the 15th century. The Tokugawa shogunate lasted 260 years. In 1868, it collapsed. Japan opened to the modern world in one of the most compressed transformations in human history, and the Iga, Tokugawa's official intelligence unit, was formally dissolved. But knowledge does not dissolve with institutions. During the Second World War, Japan deployed infiltration and sabotage tactics taught directly by descendants of the Iga lineage. The Kempeitai, Japan's military secret police, operated on cell structures that the Bansenshukai had described 300 years earlier. Information compartmentalization, deniable operatives, cover identities. After the war, when American military analysts studied the Japanese intelligence apparatus, they found principles that no professor at West Point had ever taught, but that proved operationally effective against everything the Americans understood about intelligence work. Today, the elite intelligence units of every major power operate according to a model that shinobi articulated 6 centuries ago. Cell structures whose members do not know each other, identities kept secret even within the organization, priority on intelligence collection, not elimination, absorption into the surrounding environment, withdrawal without trace. The CIA calls it NOC, non-official cover. Delta Force calls it HUMINT, Human Intelligence Operations. MI6 calls it deep cover work. The Mossad calls it Katsa operations. Case officers embedded in target environments, sometimes for years. The specifics differ, the doctrine is identical, and here is perhaps the most striking detail of all. None of these agencies cite Japan as an influence. No CIA training manual references the Bansenshukai. No Delta Force doctrine document acknowledges the Jonin, Chunin, Genin cell structure. They reinvented the entire system independently and arrived at exactly the same conclusions that a group of farmers in the mountains of Iga had already reached in the 15th century. When separate systems of thought, operating across 5 centuries and half a world of distance, independently produce the same architecture, that is not a coincidence. That is a discovery about the fundamental nature of intelligence itself. In 2022, Japan closed the last university still teaching traditional ninjutsu. Not enough students. The final living grandmaster, Junichi Kawakami, 74 years old, announced that he would not pass his title to anyone. His reason, given in a public statement, was simple. The world no longer needs ninja. He may be wrong, because while you have been watching this, there are people infiltrating enemy systems not with swords, but with code. There are people collecting intelligence not by climbing walls, but by harvesting metadata, the residue of 1 billion daily decisions made on devices people carry everywhere. There are people altering the perception of reality for millions of people at once, not with smoke compounds and disorientation agents, but with coordinated disinformation across platforms that did not exist 20 years ago. They do not wear black suits, they do not carry throwing stars. They sit in front of monitors in ordinary office buildings, in ordinary cities, and they look like nothing in particular. But the operational principles are identical. Invisibility, infiltration, collection, disruption, withdrawal. The 30 guards who watched a man in a monk's robe walk through Fushimi Castle were not stupid men. They were trained men, doing exactly what they were trained to do, watching for threats that looked like threats. They were defeated not by superior force, but by a superior understanding of how perception works, and how easily it can be shaped by someone who knows what they are doing. The ninja did not die when Nobunaga burned Iga in 1581. They did not die when the Tokugawa shogunate dissolved in 1868. They did not die when Junichi Kawakami decided not to choose a successor. The ninja never died. They changed their clothes, and the most dangerous one in the room has never looked like a ninja at all.